Hello everyone and welcome back to my kitchen. So today we are going to be making rice flour bread. We are not going to be using all-purpose flour or bread flour for this recipe. And this bread is good for those who are gluten intolerant, or if you just want to take a little break from white flour bread. This recipe requires a number of ingredients. However, these ingredients are what you already have in your pantry or what you can easily source for in your local grocery store. So let's go straight into the recipe. I'm going to be measuring out 3 cups of white rice flour, and of course this is our main ingredient, followed by half of a cup of glutinous rice flour. And I like to use the glutinous rice flour because it adds a little more chewiness to the bread. Next is my salt. I'm using half of a tablespoon of that, followed by 2 teaspoons of yeast, a teaspoon of baking soda. I'll also be using 4 tablespoons of coconut oil, and you can also use melted butter in place of coconut oil. 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and this is also going to help in activating our leavening, which is the yeast and the baking soda. For my sweetener, I'm going to be using 1/4 of a cup of honey, and I chose to use honey instead of white sugar because the honey adds more moisture to the bread. Now I'm going to be separating my egg whites from my egg yolk, and today I'm going to be using just the egg white, not the yolk. I once tried this recipe using the egg yolk and the egg white. The next day I wasn't too satisfied with how crumbly the bread was, so since then I just stick to my egg whites, and the next day the bread is still almost just as good as it was made the first day. So you don't have to trash the egg yolk. You can use them for any other kitchen thing you want, maybe your mayonnaise or things like that. This recipe calls for 1.5 cups of water. However, I like to start with 1 cup of water because for this recipe there is a very thin line between making it too liquidy. So I just try to stay safe. I add 1 cup, then I add more as I go along. Now I'm going to be using my stand mixer to give this a very good whip, and I'm going to be whipping it for about 5 good minutes. It's okay if you don't have a stand mixer, you can also use your hand mixer. It's going to work just as well. After 5 minutes, this is what we have. As you can see, the batter is looking really nice and fluffy and well aerated. You don't want this air to deflate, so we are going to gently pour this inside our prepared baking pan. And for my baking pan, as you can see, I already lined it up with my parchment paper. That's all we need. As you can see, the texture of the batter looks like a freshly whipped ice cream. This is the best way I can describe it. And this is the texture I'll say you should look out for. I'm going to be covering this with another baking pan. I don't want to use a surface that is going to touch the dough because as you can see, it's very loose. If you do that, it's going to ruin the whole batter. I like to put my bread inside the oven to proof. This is because it requires a little bit of heat to give it a good rise. So I preheat the oven to around 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Once my oven reaches that temperature, I turn it off, then I put my bread inside. Oh, the dough, the batter. Okay. Once my oven reaches 180 degrees Fahrenheit, I turn it off, then I put my batter inside the oven to proof for 1 hour. So the batter has been rising for almost 1 hour now. I'm just going to take this out and set it aside. It's now time for me to preheat my oven. And when I want to do this, I like to put some water in an oven safe pan. and I put that inside the oven for it to preheat together with the oven. And this is because the rice bread needs a lot of steam for it to develop a very good crust. Okay, now take a look at this. The batter is well risen. And don't worry about spilling. It's okay. It's not going to spill over. I've tried it before. All right, so I'm going to be placing this in a 375 degrees preheated oven, and I'm going to be baking for 40 to 45 minutes. So guys, I came about this recipe because my little princess is now on a temporary gluten-free diet. So a few months ago, when she got on the diet, I started looking for gluten-free bread for her. I got some, in the store, but it's not exactly what her taste buds are used to, because I bake bread a lot, as you all know. So they've developed a certain taste for bread. So I started experimenting, and I don't want to use, too much ingredients that is difficult to source. So I came about this recipe. It took a lot of energy, sweat, experiment to come with this beautiful looking bread. And I'm grateful everyone in the house loves it. So I thought, why not share it with you all? In case, one or two of you are out there gluten-free, or like I said earlier, you just want to take a little bit of break from the regular bread flour bread. So I hope you enjoy this bread as much as we do. After about 30 minutes of baking, sometimes the bread might want to brown faster before it gets fully done. So what I do is just to cover it with a foil paper to avoid further browning of the surface of the bread. So now the bread is done. As you can see, it's looking really nice. It has a very nice crust, and it also looks really nice on the inside. Take a look at this. So this is how I make our gluten-free rice bread. It's our newfound love, and we love it so much. And I hope you also love it as much as we do. So that is it again for today. Thank you very much for spending your time with me again. As usual, all the details to this recipe can be found in the description box below. Until next time, I'll talk to you shortly. Enjoy.